Moikka moi! Welcome to the Papo de Professor podcast. This podcast has as objective the dissemination of new ideas, theories, and good practices in education. I am teacher Damian, and today we have here a very important guest. So I am happy to introduce you all the General Secretary of Singapore Teachers Union, and also the Vice Chairman from Educare, Mr. Mike Turman. So welcome to the Papo de Professor, to the Papo de Educador, Mike.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
That is your first time in Brazil?
Oh, this is actually second time. I've been here about 14 years ago to Porto Alegre.
In São Paulo is your first time?
First time, yes.
Now we are in the Intercontinental Hotel, so I'd like to thank you to be here so early to talk with us. Mike has a very full agenda for this week, so they find some space to talk with us in the Papo de Educador. So, Mike, what is your main purpose to come to Brazil?
Everyone's talking about education, the quality of education. Our purpose, or my own particular purpose, is to find out more about Brazilian education system and whether Singapore and Educare can be part of the endeavor to raise the level of education and provide quality education for all students in Brazil, actually, and elsewhere in the world.
Before to start this talk, I'd like to talk about your background in education. Mm-hmm. What was your journey to come here today?
Okay. I started teaching in a primary school for about 3 years. And then I went into the Ministry of Education for about 6 to 7 years. I worked with gifted children from the Ministry of Education and gifted teachers who work with gifted children. Right? And in 2004, I joined the Singapore Teachers Union full-time, and I've been with them since then. And in 2006, we had started Educare International, working across the globe, doing a lot of teacher training, a lot of school leadership training, because ultimately we believe in Singapore that if you want to raise the quality of your education system, you need to raise the quality of your teachers and their teaching. So I've taught trained teachers in Libya, in Bhutan, South Africa, Malaysia, Vietnam, and quite recently, quite a bit in Russia, all over Russia. In fact, last week we were in a Far Eastern region in Russia doing leadership training for 70 school leaders. And we have also done some work in Colombia last year for teachers in Huila, as well as maths professors in Bogota.
In Bogota. Yeah. We have been, actually, the whole world have been the great result of Singapore in the international ranks of education. So the questions of $1 million is, what is the secret of Singapore?
As I said, the secret lies in ensuring you'll find and retain the best professional teacher in every classroom. That means from the moment you recruit good teachers from the moment you recruit teachers to the time they graduate from pre-service education, you get them into schools, ensure they are well compensated, right? So that they don't have to worry about basic needs like food, family expenses, so that they can actually focus on teaching. And once they are in teaching, continually upgrade them, right, so that they are up to speed all the time and are able to apply their knowledge to students and to the new environment they meet regularly.
We use in Brazil to listen all the time about the another educational systems. For instance, what happened in Japan with they study so hard, they spend a lot of time in the classroom, and you use it more recently about Finland, that is completely different educational system where the people is more focused in the citizen trajectory. So what is the most remarkable point in the Singapore educational system?
I guess, in a nutshell, we are a balance between Japan and Finland, I guess. Somewhere in between. Not completely right in the middle, because we are an Asian society. Like any other Asian society, like Taiwan, Korea, Japan, Shanghai, we place a lot of emphasis on education. Emphasis includes putting pressure, right? So can an Asian society run away from it? I'm not sure yet. But we are tweaking the system to ensure that we provide our students an all-rounded education, not just preparing them for exams, but preparing them for their life in the future, right? Actually, that is our key. Okay, exams are merely a stage you go through. It's not the final destination. Okay? And in fact, in Singapore, we encourage all our students to be lifelong learners, self-directed lifelong learners, because we think education and learning is a lifelong endeavor. And we want to encourage our students to have this passion for learning all the time. So our schools provide actually a very balanced education. The system, the society itself may add some pressure to the students and the parents, but the education system actually provides a holistic, well-rounded education. I'll give you an example. I've got 3 sons. My eldest boy is in a very good junior college, like your high school, a very good high school. As you know, in Singapore, all the schools are public schools, right? He's in a very good high school, but he spends 4 to 5 times a day, 4 to 5 times a week, 4 to 5 hours a day training for his kayaking, right? So he's determined to do well in kayaking. So we are very serious about co-curricular activities, not just the academics. Co-curricular activities. We're very serious. And my younger boy is in basketball. He trains also very regularly. My youngest son, he's into brass band music. He plays a musical instrument, and he's into robotics. And he spends 2 to 3 times a week doing this kind of activities. Okay? We do not think that education can only be provided through academic learning. Okay? For holistic education, we must develop other competencies and qualities in students, like persistence, grit, adaptability, curiosity, and all this don't come just by sitting in the classroom. So the job of the school and the education system is to nurture a well-rounded, holistic individual. So when someone tells me, it seems like there's a lot of stress in the Singapore system, that's societal level. Singapore is a very stressful society, right? But so you will imagine that will cascade down to the school system. But the school system itself does not apply additional pressure. In fact, the school system and educators and school leaders, even the education minister, is trying to ensure that we loosen up a bit. Okay, we pull back a bit from being so highly strung and stressed out. Yeah.
And I can imagine yesterday you gave us a very, very interesting lecture about this educational system. And, when I returned to my hotel yesterday at night, I was thinking about the consequence of this how can I say, stressful society. So how it reflects in the student life? What is the consequence for this stressful in the student's life?
Actually, like I said, the school system does not apply additional stress at all. In fact, we provide students plenty of opportunities away from the academics. So students actually go to school. They are in school by 7:30. By 1:30 or 3:30, they finish the academic part of schooling, which also actually includes physical education, music, art. And
okay, I understood. It means it's not just to put more information or I mean more activities. It's something to relax also.
Relax in the sense of diverting your focus to something else as well, because life is not just about books, right? Life is not just about maths or science. There's more to life. And we actually provide our students plenty of opportunity. Like I said, my younger son, since grade 1 and grade 2, has been involved in band music. He plays a musical instrument. And since end of last year, he started robotics, does that bit. So it is non-academic. He's allowed, he's actually encouraged to discover his passions, discover his interests, right? At a young age, he may not know what he's completely interested in yet, but we provide the opportunity to discover. He's played soccer, he's played tennis, he goes for swimming classes, and of course, learning from his brothers, he knows what kayaking and canoeing is, he knows what basketball is. So the opportunities are there for students to pursue their own interests, and if something that they really want to pursue, like my eldest boy Michael, kayaking, from grade 7 we allowed him to pursue it, and now he's in grade 11 and he's still very active.
Let me ask you about the Singapore. Singapore, it's a city-state, right? So that you are about 5.5 million of people. Yesterday, someone told me that it's basically the half of the city of São Paulo. It's about the size of the territory and also the people that live there, right or not?
How many people are in São Paulo?
Just in the São Paulo city is about 10 million.
10 million.
Yeah, actually a little bit more, 11 or 12 million of people. That is one of the biggest cities in the world. I don't know if you already know about that, but you can realize when you try to walk around driving your car that here is a very, very crowded city. But have you told us yesterday that the education system that is made basically for public schools, right? So we can say that 100% of the schools there are public schools?
100% of the schools that Singapore students go to are public schools. We have some private schools, a handful, and a handful of international schools. Private schools because before independence they were around, about probably 3 private schools maximum, and a lot of international schools because we have a lot of foreigners in Singapore who bring their families, and to encourage them to come to Singapore, we provide an international education as well, right? We have Americans, we have Britons, we have people from Europe. So we have plenty of international schools, but essentially these international schools are meant for international students. So 95% of Singapore students at least attend the public schools in the Singapore system.
We're still talking about the Singapore. Someone from the embassy yesterday told me that this population is about 5 million person. Just about 3 million person are born in Singapore. The other ones come from the other countries. So I can imagine it's very, very, very international place. It's multicultural place, I mean. So how can manage that? Because when these kids goes to the school, they speak a lot of different languages. They have a lot of different customs. It means everything is different. So how can Singapore handle that?
Being international is in our DNA because we were founded by the British East India Company as a trading port, right? We have a very deep harbour and we got very good sea route connections. That is one. Okay, so we have always been a trading port, and if you trade, you are international. You're bound to get people from all over the world. Second, we are an immigrant society. We are an immigrant society, meaning none of us are, actually, most of us are not native to Singapore. Okay, my grandparents came from India. A lot of people came from China. A lot of people came from Indonesia.
There are Brazilians there?
Some Brazilians now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But historically, the ethnic groups that were coming into Singapore were the Indians, the Chinese, and the Malays. And slowly, in the mid-80s and mid-90s, we started getting people from outside of these ethnic groups. As we became more and more internationalized, more and more well-known, we are essentially a global city. We are a global city-state. So if you wanted to look at a global city-state, right, come to Singapore.
Sure.
Yeah. We get along because we are used to seeing different people and different cultures. Just walking down the street. My neighbor is not of my ethnic group. We are united in a sense because we have a common language. Most of us speak English. In Singapore education system, the medium of instruction is English. That's a common bind, allows us to communicate, and understanding that we are part of the global network allows us to think that it will be better for us to understand and bring in diversity because there is strength in diversity, and we welcome. Actually, we are quite welcoming in the sense, you've met my colleague Lilia. She's a Russian. Imagine there are Russians. In fact, this year we are celebrating 50 years of diplomatic ties with Russia, USSR Russia. Right, and we have got very good relationship with Colombia, with Brazil, with some Latin American countries. More and more people are coming as we build more relationships. Right, we found out that people are not very different. Essentially, we are human beings. The way we speak may be sometimes different. Maybe the way we do things can be different, but not necessarily bad. Right? Different is not bad. Different, in fact, is good.
Great. Well, just to clarify about the language of the schools, if I understood well, every class in the Singapore teach in English?
Yes.
Is that right?
Medium of instruction is in English, so all the subjects are taught in English except for a language. Like if you did Malay, you'll do it obviously in Malay.
Because the official language in Singapore is Malay, right?
National language is Malay. We have 4 official languages.
Wow.
Right? So the national language is Malay. But official languages are English, Tamil, Chinese, and Malay. So medium of instruction is obviously in English. And then you learn one other language, essentially your own mother tongue. If you're Chinese, you learn Chinese. If you're Indian, generally you will do Tamil. If you're Malay, of course you will do Malay, right, as a mother tongue language.
So if I will visit, and I intend to do that in Singapore, I will see the kids talking with others in English?
Yes. Most often than not, unless I'm talking to somebody who's a Tamil speaker, even in that case, we might still communicate in English because it's quite prevalent and we are used to it. Our English may sound very different from a British English or Latin American English, but that's accent. It's our own version, but we do learn standard English in schools. And if you wanted to have an official communication, it's very possible from a very young age. Okay, in fact, more and more students are becoming more proficient in English language than their own mother tongue.
I can imagine that you can could heard that in Brazil we are in very, very, how can I say, a very important moment. We are just got implement our unique curriculum for the whole country. So I can imagine that it's already done in Singapore. Right? So you have a unique curriculum. Yesterday in your lecture, have you said that you used to train a lot your teachers? The teachers expend about 100 hours per year doing this. How can I say that? It means is 100 hours of paid hours for their teachers' formation, for the teachers' lifelong learn. Yes. So how it happened?
We understood for some time now that things in the world are changing quite rapidly, and for teachers to keep current and to continue to have a certain level of competency, they must continually learn. And for that to happen, the government, the Ministry of Education, actually incentivized the teachers. So almost all the training is paid for by the Ministry of Education or the school. Most of the time the training is done during working hours. That means the teachers do not have to take leave to go for this training. They will be paid. All this is driven to ensure that professional learning, professional development by the teachers is part of their job, right? We would expect a teacher to continually learn, okay, and demonstrate that passion for learning.
Have you said a very, very interesting about the characteristics, the mandatory characteristics for the teacher in the Singapore? Could you tell about that? I remember that you mentioned 5 main characteristics. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
We have envisioned the Singapore teacher. So we call it the growth model, teacher growth model. Okay, we have envisioned the teacher to be like a diamond. Like a diamond is something you value. People like to show off. The diamond, people like to make sure it's always polished. But a diamond itself has inherent qualities. Okay? In teaching, that inherent quality would be a passion for learning, passion for students, love for students, and devoting oneself to the care of the young people that we look after. Okay? But every diamond needs to be cut in a certain way and polished regularly. The polishing part would probably be the 100 hours of training, ongoing training. The cutting part involves these 5 qualities. The teacher first must be an ethical educator. Because without ethics, you cannot be a responsible teacher nurturing young minds. Right? It's something that we take very seriously. The value system of the teacher is very important, and it must be aligned to the general thinking and values that we as a society want to espouse. Right? So ethic is an important, and understand that you are an educator. Right? Meaning you're there to educate, to nurture, to develop every single child. Not just academically, but holistically. Develop a human being, a responsible citizen. Alright? So you must remember that, bear that in mind. That is the core, ethical educator. Second, the teacher must be a competent professional. Okay? A competent professional means you know your content knowledge, subject matter very well. You know your students very well and understand the dynamics and developmental stages that they go through, the motivations of the students, the interests of the students. And you must have pedagogical knowledge. And you must have the competency to bring all these 3 elements into your classroom practice. Right? Knowing content knowledge is not sufficient for good instruction. right? So you must be able to synergize and integrate these three different aspects of being a competent teacher into your classroom practice. So second thing is a competent professional. Third thing is a collaborative learner. Okay, learning, I've already spoken about why it's important for a teacher to be a learner, but not just to learn on his or her own, but to learn together. Because we understand that learning is a social activity. We learn better and more as we learn together. Okay, collaborative learner, as I've explained, it is important for teachers to share their practice with one another. Okay, and we know the best professional development is job-embedded professional development. Meaning, the best way to learn is to go into somebody else's classroom and watch them teach, and invite somebody else into your classroom. And as you teach, after you teach, to give you professional critique, and you learn better that way. That's the collaboration we're talking about. Okay, we can sit down and discuss over a cup of coffee as well. The new things we learn, that's collaboration. But the best form of collaboration would happen in the place where the action happens. Okay, that's the best way to learn. We all learn it that way. So for teachers to learn, it must be honing their craft in the classroom. Okay, so collaborative learner. So the third point is being a collaborative learner. The fourth point is to be a transformational leader. Right? A teacher is a leader. He leads the class, he leads the thinking of the class, he shapes the thinking of his students, right? So even outside his community, he's to be seen as a leader. He's transformational because that's what we do. We transform young minds. We are teachers, right? So to have that in his mind all the time, he's shaping the thinking, the values, the attitudes of the young people whom he is in charge of. Okay, so the leadership role of a teacher is very important, and obviously we also want the teachers to be leaders in their profession, right? To lead professional discussions, to lead professional thinking, to be a thought leader in their environment. Okay? And the fifth, very critical quality is to be a community builder. Okay? As I said, we are an immigrant society, and it is important for us to develop, to nurture this sense of belonging in our students. And as you would know, students spend most of their time in the classroom, right? So the students must feel a sense of belonging to the classroom community. So the classroom is a community. So it is the responsibility of the teacher to build the classroom community, to ensure that his classroom is safe for everyone. In his classroom, everyone is valued, everyone is loved, not just by himself, but by the students amongst themselves also. Right? Show respect for one another, and this is important. So, educator in Singapore, a teacher in Singapore must have these 5 essential qualities: ethical educator, competent professional, collaborative learner, transformational leader, and a community builder.
But it sounds amazing. Yeah. Yes, it's a very, very important, very core characteristics for, how can I say, a transformative teacher. Yeah. Yes, that could transformate the life of their students, to help them to transformate the world. I think so. So we have no much more time. So just to walk for the end of this interview, I'd like to tell very, very shortly about the future of the education. So where and when is the future of the education?
The future of education is now. It is here. Right? If you are waiting for something to happen that's too late and it's a wrong thinking. Okay, the future of education is in your classroom, your students, right? So if you don't change now, if we don't act now, our students will lose out, right? Because the world around us is changing. It's being disrupted. It's changing at an accelerating pace, right? In 2007, we had our first iPhone, and now almost every child, every teenager will have a smartphone. Okay, if you talk to them about the push button, the keypad on the telephone, nobody will understand it. Right? The world has changed. Right? You have the entire information of the world at your fingertips. Right? It is for us to now act and to ensure that we prepare our students for their future. And their future will be very different. We actually do not know what their future is going to be like, what industries they're going to have, what kind of jobs they're going to have. Right? Most of the jobs that are well-paying now did not exist 10, 15 years ago. So how do we prepare for this uncertainty? We give them attitudes. Like attitudes that will carry them through life. Like curiosity, like persistence, like adaptability. These qualities must be nurtured. Skill sets, critical thinking skill sets, communication skill sets, ability to problem solve. Again, content is important, but skills and these dispositions, qualities are even more important. Right? If a child is adaptable, whatever life throws at him, he will know what to do. If you just gave him science and maths, without this quality of adaptability and persistence and grit, he will not be able to survive.
So the last question, I think so, is the harder question for you. It's about your personal concern. Okay, so what Brazil must to learn with Singapore? And also, we believe that we're not a blank country. You have a lot of things to teach. I don't know if you have enough time to know more about our system and how we work or how we are. But what do you mean? What do you think that Singapore must to learn with Brazil? It means what we can, what we should, or what we must to achieve.
Okay, we are still learning. Actually, we learn from all over the world, right? From Brazilians outright. Okay, if we can play soccer like you guys, it'll be good. But that's a long stretch. But the zest for life. I've met many Brazilians in my work in the last 14, 15 years. Every Brazilian I've met has this sense of passion. Passion for life, passion for the things that they do, to enjoy life. Right? To smell the roses, so to speak. I think we must have that. So, as you know, as you pointed out, Singapore is stressful. So we need to loosen up a bit. Okay? So that we enjoy work and we enjoy life. Right? We must find some sort of harmony. Okay? Will we be like Brazilians completely? No. We're Singaporeans. Okay? But we can learn. What can Brazil look at us and the rest of the world? It's essentially about where the future is going. Right? The world is changing. There are new geopolitical powers. Right? When I was growing up, it was very simple. It's either US or the USSR. Right? We had two blocks, major blocks. But now it's multipolar. You have the US, you have Russia, and Brazil. Brazil is part of BRICS. It has the 7th or 8th largest economy in the world. Brazil is a geopolitical player as well. Right? But because you have such rich resources, it is only natural for people to look at Brazil and say, maybe you can do more. Maybe you should be doing more. Right, in terms of your public education system, right? We've heard plenty about the public education system. Okay, my own take is just because the system is like this now does not mean the system has to be like this in the future. Right? I believe as educators, we are change agents. We can change. Right? Teachers are change agents. Right? If we want something to change, we may not be able to bring transformative change, revolutionary change immediately, but we can slowly tweak the system here and there, here and there. Okay? Just bear one thing in mind. Everything that we do as teachers is for the future of the students. It is about the students, nothing more, nothing less. Right? If we have that right, I think we'll be headed in the right direction. And keep learning as teachers, as educators, as system policy makers. Learn from others. Even if you cannot implement everything other people implement, you can see what is implementable within your own society, within your own system, and adapt it. There's no copycat solutions, right? Everything has to be adapted to and contextualized. Singapore has done nothing that Singapore nothing that Singapore has done is its own idea. We have borrowed, we have copied, we have adapted, right? But what we have done is, once we said we wanted to do something, we have implemented it. So from a policy perspective, there must be political will, critical political will. Without, nothing happens without will. And in a system, there must be political will, right? Not just politicians, administrators as well. Political will to make things happen. Second, you must have this fidelity of implementation. If you want to do something, implement it all the way through. Okay? Because in education, results take at least 15 years to be seen. Right? You cannot be changing education policy every 3-4 years. Right? Then we will never see anything, any concrete, important, critical result. Education takes time. So generally ideas are good. Like your national curricular framework. Right? If it's a good thing, people have talked about it. People have overall decided that at least there must be basic standards across the board for students in the whole country. Almost all of us have, even America with its 50 different states has the Common Core curriculum, right? So the benchmarking is important, but implementation is the key. The devil, if you may, the devil is in the detail. Thank you.
Okay, so just to finish this interview, you show us in the last slide yesterday in your presentation a very, very interesting, very, thinkful phrase is: the success of an education system cannot exceed the quality of its teachers. So if it is what the Singapore believe, I think so, because you show us how your country care about their teachers and their lifelong learning. I think so. It's one of the most important things that we can learn with you. So I would like to thank you for your time. I very appreciate your concerns and your view about the future of education, and I hope have you here more times.
Thank you very much. I'm sure I'll enjoy Sao Paulo and learn as I enjoy.
Okay.
Thank you.
So thank you all. So if you want to continue this conversation and you want to talk and share us a little bit your concern or of your